Good evening, and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 6th, and tonight's movie is The Platform. The Platform, originally known as The Hole, is a Spanish language movie about, I don't know if it's like supposed to be a dystopian society or if it's like a prison, but whatever it is, you got multiple floors of people living in it, and there's a hole in every single floor. And like lower down through that hole is this platform that has a bunch of food, drink, other provisions to it, and it goes to the top floor, lowers to one floor, stops, lowers to the next floor, stops, and it keeps going. And if the people at the top just take what they need, everybody can eat, but of course that doesn't happen. So it's the people that on the lower floors fighting to survive. I think it's pretty clear what kind of social commentary they're going for here. This is like representing the different classes and wealth gaps. The people at the top are able to take what they want and more, and the people at the bottom need to scrounge up what's left. This is a very high concept movie. It has the premise, and then it just goes from there. This is a very interesting premise, and I'm curious to see where they're going to go with it. I'm gonna go watch it and tell you what I think. Finally, something really good. I'm giving The Platform a 9 out of 10. It is a very interesting, very good movie. This really is a brilliant premise, and there are so many directions they could have gone with it. One thing that I didn't mention at the beginning is that every 30 days, all the people in the tower are sedated and they're shuffled. Like, you're always paired with the same person, but which floor you're on can vary wildly. One day you could be on floor 7, the next day you'll be on floor 148. This isn't really like a whole civilization. You don't see anything outside of this tower at all, but this is clearly like a place within civilization. It is used as a prison. Some of them are there because they committed crimes, but the main character, Goreng, actually came voluntarily to do 6 months in the tower because he wanted to quit smoking. And one thing they make it clear later is that nobody on the outside knows how bad things get in the tower. And things get very bad in the hole. On the lower floors, cannibalism is very common. And one nice touch in this movie is that nobody knows how many floors there are in this tower. The numbers go up the further down you go, so you have no idea how bad it could get. And one thing that they talked about was maybe if we just rationed and just ate only what we needed and everybody did that, we could all eat. But that begs the question, they don't know how many people need to be fed. And this platform, it's big, but it's not that big. I mean, obviously the tower has to stop at some point because the same platform keeps coming back up to the top every morning. So it has to stop eventually, but just nobody knows when. And another thing that they did that was actually a really smart move is that people can't take food from the platform without eating it. They can't take off some food and then save it for later, because if there's any food gone from the platform when it goes to the next level that hasn't been eaten, the temperature on that floor is either going to go so high up that they get heat stroke or go so far down that they're going to freeze to death. They aren't just kept alive by the food on this platform, they're being kept to a schedule by it. And obviously this presents just about everybody with a moral dilemma. And I think my favorite part about this movie is that it establishes that there's no easy answer to this. There are so many different little dynamics and subplots and views on how different people are handling this situation throughout the movie. It's very interesting to see all the different stories that you get to witness. The main character tries to keep some form of compassion and humanity throughout the film, but it's not easy. And without spoiling anything, I would say that the ending is just ambiguous enough. The main reason why I'm giving this a 9 instead of a 10 is that while it is extremely interesting and thought-provoking, one thing it isn't really is entertaining. This movie gets pretty intense sometimes. But that doesn't mean this isn't a great movie. It is. I would recommend it. Now I really want to talk about some of the spoilers. Goreng wakes up on floor 48, which is not a terrible floor. It's not the best either. It's a pretty good middle ground. And during his first 30 days, that's when the movie sort of establishes the setting as well as the characters of him and his cellmate. His cellmate's an older man named Trimagasi, who doesn't seem all that trustworthy, but they seem to get along fine. And then the next month, they're on floor 171, and Shigematsu ties Goreng to the bed and says that he's just gonna eat him over the next month. He only makes it out alive because there's this one woman who keeps riding the platform to lower and lower levels to try to find her child. And she saves him, and they both eat some of Trimagasi. The next month, he's on a floor in the 30s with a woman who was actually the lady who interviewed him on his way in the tower. Apparently, even the people who work for the tower don't know how bad it is. I realized just now that I'm kind of just summarizing the movie, so I'm not going to go into every detail, but there keeps being more floors, and back on the subject of how many floors there are, the worker was convinced that there were only 200, but the next level that they're on is 202, so there's clearly more. And the next level that Goreng's assigned to is floor 6, and he, with the help of his new cellmate, what they decide to do is get on the platform and ride it downwards, floor by floor, protecting the food, trying to ration it out, and only start giving it out around floor 51. And just to see how far down they can go, maybe there's a way to escape at the very bottom. They estimated that there was about 250 floors, and there ends up being 333, which means that there are 666 people in the tower, because of course there is. A lot of the floors with the high numbers are empty, and the platform just goes on by because there's no one to feed. But at the very bottom floor, 333, there's a young girl there, like a child. It was that daughter that the woman from earlier was looking for. And one thing that they talked about was trying to send a message, because the platform goes back up to the top every day. So they wanted to leave something as a message to the people who would see it at the very top to sort of wake them up to the reality of the situation. Their first idea is to have one dish of food, keep it there. It was a panna cotta, and have that go back up completely untouched. But once they see that girl on the bottom floor, she's clearly starving to death, and they give it to her. So their next idea is that they all go down to the very bottom. At this point, Goreng and the girl are the only two left alive. And once they get to the very bottom, it's like this black void of nothingness. There's a floor, but there's no visible walls. And Goreng makes the decision that the worker was told that people under the age of 16 are not even allowed in the tower. So she was convinced that the child that woman was talking about didn't exist, but she did. So that would be an even better message to send to the people up at the top, to show them how bad and how hidden all the terrors of this tower are. The movie ends with Goreng getting off the platform and letting it leave with the child on it, going up to the very top, and the movie just ends. We don't know what happens. And I think that was a smart move, because if it had, fixed everything, that wouldn't have been realistic, given the tone that they were trying to set up. And if it just immediately failed, what kind of ending would that be? The message of the story, if you could call it that, isn't that things are terrible and there's no way to fix it, and it isn't that there's this quick, easy way to make everybody happy. It's that change takes time, and it takes, cooperation, but everybody has their own responsibility to make it happen. I was a little apprehensive when I saw how firmly the social commentary was ingrained into this movie, but it handles it very well. It's not pretentious, it's not condescending, it shows this situation in a very balanced way. If this concept interests you at all, I would check this movie out. It is streaming on Netflix, and I would highly recommend it. Alright, I'll see everybody tomorrow.